Welcome to OffPlanet Radio. I'm Randy Maugans. My guest for this show brings to the table a story that is now becoming common. As people wake up and go through the process of understanding the theft that has been perpetrated on them, not only of their property, labors, possessions, but even of their very identity, the idea that from birth, the names that we were given were copyrighted by the state and used to trade through world international banking cabals, using us as human capital to transact business on a global scale. We begin to understand the insanity and the level of depravity of a system which basically is human trafficking on a global scale. Today we work, we pay our taxes, we give the fruits of our labor back to a system that long ago stole it from us. And many people, as they wake up, are beginning to understand that the journey back to freedom is not easy, that it is not simple, that there is no one roadmap that works, and that every situation that we encounter requires us to seek inside ourselves what's most important and what is the spiritual direction that we are going to take. Make no mistake that the journey back to freedom is a spiritual battle, and it is a battle that is fought inside the soul, and it has to do with who we really are when we are no longer defined by a copyrighted state-owned name. My guest journey begins 7 years ago when she purchased a house to shelter her children. At a time when the mortgage renewal contract was due to come up, discovered that even though she had faithfully made the payments on the mortgage, she was considered in arrears on the mortgage, and that no one at her mortgage company would even be able to talk to her about her status. Moving forward in the process, she found herself being evicted from her home, having her home invaded and taken over, and then taking it back 4 times. Finally culminating in an event which resulted in an early morning assault upon her house and ultimately upon her person after she ejected a property management employee from her property and then was assaulted by a constable in Ontario, Canada. My guest goes by the name Jane Doe755. Her real name really is immaterial in this because her real name, as she tells you in this story, is owned by the state. And so we begin the journey towards one woman's attempt to take back her power from an illicit and unlawful government. Meet with me, Jane Doe755. You did an interview with Dr. Sam Muggsy on Blog Talk Radio where you went into the details of what happened as a result of this alleged so-called fraudulent takeover by a mortgage company. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so can you give us a little bit of background on the story of that, because people will hear this show that did not hear your previous interview with Sam.
Yeah, well, I had been going through. I found out 2 years ago, actually, that the mortgages were fraud. Not just mortgages, all liens, loans, licenses. They're all just liens on the people, and it's theft of our money. Because we don't owe any of these people any of this money. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I found out about the fraud of the mortgage initially from the One People's Public Trust, and so started researching it and started connecting with other people that also were learning of the fraud of the mortgages and trying to do something about it. We were given a proof of funding letter request to take to the banks or to the mortgage company to request proof of funding and the wedding signature contract that you supposedly had with them. And there's 3 or 4 things on there that they have, they're obligated to show you to prove that they actually funded a mortgage for your home.
Yes.
And so I had sent that to them, and I sent them the mortgage company, First Line Mortgages in Toronto, Canada, actually. I sent them the courtesy notice, which tells them of the situation and that they were to cease and desist from this criminal activity against me. Basically, that's what the courtesy notice tells people.
Yes.
It gives them a chance to redeem themselves, which they ignored also. They never did respond to either one. And they just kept on with pretending that they actually did have a mortgage on my home. And they tried to get me to renew the mortgage in August of 2013. The mortgage came open for renewal, and I really questioned myself about whether I should do this or not, because this is so unreal to people, and it certainly was to me also. Because we all, most of us, we work really hard, and we work really hard to pay the mortgages on these homes, and to take care of these homes and have a decent place for ourselves to live.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it came time to renew the mortgage, I had asked myself, at first I thought, I'm just going to pay it. I don't want to get into all this crap, And then the other question I asked myself was, well, are you going to be happy with paying people, $700 a month that you know that you don't owe to them?
Yeah, right. Yes.
Right? And no, that's not going to sit good with me, So my friend in Australia told me that the mortgage was created by the bank first. When we buy the house is paid for from the Treasury with your signature, because the people are the creditors. Then the bank takes that money for themselves, and then they create this other ledger where they create the fantasy mortgage with you, telling you that you now owe them money, and you have to pay them payments and interest and so on and so forth. Then you, of course, go ahead believing this, that they've loaned you the money for the house, and so you go along, and this is also set up that people eventually will default, be a month late on a payment or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to give people years ago a bit of
grace period. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't anymore. Ever since the One People's Public Trust foreclosed on the banks, corporations, and government worldwide for operating slavery on the people, they've really, really stepped up their collections of money from people, because the foreclosure cut these people off of being able to access the Treasury as freely as they had been before the foreclosure. So what they've done is that now they are coming straight to our wallets, coming straight to our pockets. And I often wondered, how come most people, I know I did when I bought my home, I thought, this is going to be my home now till I leave this world. And I'll leave it to my children,
Yeah.
And I used to always wonder about people, why are people always selling and moving, and people never stay in their homes, And I'm realizing out of all of this now that it's because of this foreclosure business, this unlawful foreclosure on people.
Let me ask you a question. How does it work that a mortgage contract comes up for renewal? When you take out a mortgage, generally today people take out mortgages in 15-year, 20 or 30-year terms. Exactly what was the mechanism by which a contract on your mortgage came up? And this is just me being curious.
Yeah, because, when you first get the mortgage, it's for 5 years. I think every mortgage works that way. It's 5 years, and then after that, in 5 years it comes up for renewal, and that's basically to give them an opportunity because of the interest rates fluctuate.
Okay, this is a variable rate mortgage loan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, here in the United States, and I need to point out to the listeners that our guest tonight, who is Jane Doe755, for reasons we'll discuss later using that name, is in Canada. And there are differences in Canada and the United States, but I don't know that that's true anymore. Back when I was in the mortgage market, I don't think variable rate loans were very popular, but so the contract comes up for renewal at that point, and then it's a renegotiation process for rates?
Yes. And they also use it, too, to default people on their mortgages, right? Because it's kind of like calling in the loan, eh?
It is exactly that. Not only that, but my take on it when you were talking about it is each time you go back to them, you have to do something that they need you to do, which is sign something which then strengthens their claims or actually redefines the original claims that they had by giving them your economic energy in the form of a signature. Is that a true or false conception?
Yes. They have to have your signature in order to access the treasury of our country, which contains each of our trust accounts that were created for us when we were born. This is why they stole the name. Okay, they didn't just steal the name for the good of their health.
Okay, go into that a little bit about, first off, the funds that we have available to us and the origin of that, and then obviously the name and the stealing, the misappropriation, however you want to term that, of the name via the birth certificate.
Well, my understanding of it is when they created the banking system, okay, before we had money, of course, everybody did barter. You know, they never used the currency, and nothing had price tags on it as such. But when they found gold, you know, and everybody started mining gold and finding gold all over the place, and I guess it must have got to where we had a few greedy men that wanted all of it for themselves, and so where our forefathers had set up, you know, when they monetized everything on the planet, including us, our forefathers set up accounts for our well-being, because these trust accounts were supposed to be our means of livelihood and creating in our lives, because, you know, all of the resources in the world were put here by God for each of us to use. And just because we decided to monetize it to make it easier to exchange our value doesn't mean that any one person or group owns everything now, because they print the money.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So it was in fairness to the people, and the people agreed, and this was an agreement by the people when the banking system was created. And there were protections put in for the people, and those protections were our unalienable rights, which are food, shelter, land, water, electricity, and so on, right?
Right.
These things were never supposed to be monetized for us. Plus, we were to have our own money to create and exchange value, create our own businesses, use your talents, your God-given talents. Each and every one of us. This wasn't a gift to just certain people. But the whole system of the banking system is so insidious. It's not just the money. I mean, these men infiltrated every aspect of our lives, calling themselves kings and queens and prime ministers and presidents and governments and, you know, all of these corrupt agencies. We've never had a government. And the main reason being that the people are the government. And these people that we're paying all this money to are our trusted servants. They've been hired by the people.
Right. Yeah.
When we elect them, we hire them. And they were to distribute our resources, meaning the money, because we were doing it with money now, fairly amongst the people. And to each country, and so on and so forth. And trading of our natural resources, any dividends that all these big companies make off of these resources are supposed to be paid back to the treasury of our country. And had they done things the way that they were meant to be, we wouldn't be in the situation we are today. But because there's so much corruption going on here, people have no idea, that our lives were never meant to be a vale of tears. Never. Never, never, never. We were never supposed to be killing each other and having borders and starving people and people living on the streets. And this is such a ridiculous way of living. And these few men, when the men in this country, when the men worldwide wake up and they realize, how their dignity, their whole lives have been taken from them. Because it is also the duty of the people to serve and protect. The men are to protect their women and their children.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, not.
Yeah, that's what we call righteousness. Yes.
Well, it's not just righteousness. I mean, it's a moral obligation. It's your moral duty to take care of your families and your children and the people in your community and to care for each other and not to turn a blind eye. We're at a point now where you ain't getting to turn a blind eye anymore. Everybody around me, my whole family, everybody, they think I'm crazy. They're telling me that I'm a criminal because I'm not paying this, this mortgage to these people. I'm completely out of the system now because of the incident last week where they falsely arrested me, kidnapped me from my home, put me in jail long enough to empty all of my contents, including my car, from my home. And then they released me after they got it all done. But they also called my sons and threatened them that they were going to arrest them and put them in jail if they helped me, if they assisted me.
Oh, my.
And before this final act of theirs, I've been 6 weeks fighting these people off of my property and away from me. This incident where they falsely arrested me was the fourth time that they'd broken into my house. I had called the police. This is something that I want people to listen to what I'm saying to you. Our public servants that we trust to serve and protect us no longer, and have not been for a very long time, doing their jobs. And I got a bird's eye view throughout this last 6 weeks because I had went to the police station before I met with the property management that was kicking me out of my house. I went to the police station and I asked for help. I asked for assistance to arrest and stop these people from breaking and entering into my home, and I was refused assistance. So I ended up meeting with them on my own, and the first time I met them, which was on August the 18th at noon, I met them at my house. The young men that were there to take my contents out of my home. Now, this is something that people need to pay attention to. When they want you to come and take your contents out of your home, It is because they need your signature. When you sign that paper to take your contents out of your home, what you're actually doing is giving them your home. So you must not sign anything to them, and especially not with the birth certificate name. That's one of the pitfalls that people need to watch out for. If you are going to take a stand and stand up for the truth, protect yourselves from these people, you must not use that name, because the name is not yours. It belongs to the Crown. They own the name, but they do not own your home. They don't own you, and they don't own any of your property. But if you sign with that name, you're consenting that they do own you, your children, and your property, and your liberty. You're signing to say that you have given your life over to them. They are your masters, not God. They are. So in essence, what we do is we take ourselves out of the only safety we have in this world, which is God. I know a lot of people say they don't believe in God, blah, blah, blah. But I think that you would get over it when you realize that God stands for good, orderly direction. It's not some guy in the sky waiting to squish you or throw you in hell or any of that crap. And Jesus Christ is your friend, an invisible friend. And he's there. God gave us the spirit of Jesus Christ is the character of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Yes.
And he was an example. Jesus was a man who was an example for how, if we want happiness and peace and joy in our lives, then we need to develop the character of Jesus Christ as best we can. We're not asked to be perfect. We're just asked to try. And not for God's benefit, for your own. Anyway, where am I going here, Randy?
Well, let me direct you a little bit here, because I want to go back to the name for a minute, because I don't think a lot of people understand what's really happening. When you say, all of a sudden, we can't use the names that we've gone by, there's a whole identity thing that goes into this, Jane, that for a lot of people is, I think, a real hairpin turn to negotiate. Can you talk about that a little bit, about how they patented, copyrighted this name, and why we can't use it, and how we get out of using it?
Well, to copyright something is to take ownership of it, and nobody else can use it. Like, nobody else can take it from you. Right? But what the Vatican did, and what the banks did with that birth certificate, was they copyrighted the name as their own in all caps letters, because it identifies the trust account. It's not your identification, but you don't know that. Like, most of us believe that, and my brother just told me 10 minutes ago on the phone that birth certificate is nothing, it doesn't mean anything, it's just your identification. Yes, that's what we were told, but that is not the truth. It doesn't identify you. It identifies your trust account, your livelihood that God provided you in place of all of the resources that were provided you when you were born, to give you a means of exchanging your value and creating your creations. Because we can't do anything now in this world without a currency. Our whole societies are based on this now. And so what are we to do? How do you get out of it? You stop using the name, because it's a fraud for you to use it. If you're using someone else's name, you're stealing from them. You see?
Yeah, I kind of see that.
So it is. It is what, this is what Kate Renee says. Under the copyright law, if I take the name of a book that you wrote and put it on a book that I wrote, I have stolen from you.
That is true.
So it's no different with the crown.
But I guess my argument, and again, I'm bouncing off of you some of the things that I know will go through the minds of people who hear this interview and this information. First off, the government, so-called, the crown, whoever they are, did not create you. You were the product of a spirit merging into a body as a creation of two living beings, who is then given a name. I don't understand how a copyright works because there's no disclosure of copyright ever given. I understand what your brother was talking about. The truth of the matter is most people have never seen their original actual birth certificates, at least that I know of here in the United States. We're given copies of things, but the actual birth certificate itself is actually registered in the United States with the Department of Commerce. Now, I don't know what it is in Canada, but I suspect you're registered with the Crown as property, so we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
So bounce off that a little bit.
Well, if you look at your birth certificate, now a lot of people, they've changed it up a bit now to keep their cover.
Yeah.
But my birth certificate, I'm from a family of 19 children. I'm the youngest of 19 people.
Wow. That's a big family.
And I'm the only one in this family that's actually taken my birth certificate and looked at it, and it was because of Kate Renee. When Kate Renee started talking about our names being stolen, which boils down to identity theft. So we weren't only deemed dead when we were born, our identities were also stolen to keep us alive for their purposes, right? But on your birth certificate, it tells you, it says in fine print, banknote here in Canada. It also tells you that you are not to use this certificate for identification.
Yes, that's what it actually says on the Social Security cards that are issued here in the United States.
And you are to keep it in a safe place. Now, why is that? They don't want anybody else stealing your identity, obviously, only them. And every form you ever fill out for any government, so-called government agency, social services or unemployment or Social Security or any forms, work forms, whatever, I lost my train of thought, Randy.
Just the fact that we're using this name as a means to obtain...
Oh, that's what I was going to say. They warn you about telling the truth. That it's fraud not to put your actual true name on these documents. And you have to sign virtually everything you do in this world. You have to sign for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
So what is this desperation of getting you to sign? Well, without the name, they can't access the trust account. I mean, they don't want you. They don't want your houses. They want the money that's in those trust accounts, and they cannot get to it without you. This is why they have been putting me through hell and back here for the last 6 weeks, because they're trying to bully me into giving them that name. They went up and down my street and bullied my neighbors, trying to make them say, and this is really crazy. This is how desperate they are, okay? Because it's pointless for them to go to your neighbors and bully them to say that the name on their contracts is yours. Because once you know the truth about the birth certificate, like when I went into court at that day when they falsely arrested me, I just told the judge straight out. He asked me my name, and I said, I said, it has come to my attention in the last several months that the birth certificate name was copyrighted by the Crown as theirs when I was born. So the name is not mine. It is not me. I don't have a name, and you are not allowed to ask me for that name again.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they need to get the name is to be able to pin the liens on you. Because mortgages, taxes, licenses, fees, all of this stuff, they're all liens on you. But they're wrongful liens. They're fantasy liens. There's somebody else's self-will being forced upon you. They never paid for anything. They just created the documents that says that you owe them. And in order to get paid, you have to agree. And the way that you agree is by signing with that name. Does that make sense?
It does.
When you use that name, you are throwing away your life. You literally are ending your life without knowing.
Yeah, exactly.
Pardon?
But that's what we've been doing.
Yeah. It's not about, and you also are harming your children, yes. And it's set up for your total demise. Because I'm sitting here today, I'm 57 years old. I worked all of my life. I always paid all of my bills. Mm-hmm. I was always proud of that, as most people are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, of course.
And for most people, if you had your bills paid, you had a few bucks for something extra, well, that's good. People were content with that. But realizing this, how hard I worked, all that I missed with my children, all that I lost in my life, throughout my life, because I was so diligent about paying people I do not owe money. It is, I feel poisoned. I feel poisoned with this house.
Yeah.
When I bought this home, it was a gift from God. I swear to you, as I sit here, it was. I was not prepared. I didn't have the money to buy this house. I needed to move, though. And I had said to my higher power, you got to help me get out of this neighborhood now. Because kids were getting shot in the face with drug deals and stuff like this started happening in the neighborhood where I was living. And so I was brought to this house, and I saw this house in a dream before I bought it. And I walked through this house, and when I went to buy it, I put in the application just on a whim,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. And lo and behold, the house was mine. So I managed to pull the money together, for the down payment and everything. And this is supposed to be a wonderful experience in our lives, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of is. It's a big deal.
For most of us, this is a big accomplishment.
Yes, it's the largest purchase most people ever make in their lives.
Yeah. What I could never understand about it, though, was that from the time that I bought that house, and I've had it 6 years, it has been nothing but a struggle and misery in my life. It took control of my whole life. I worked so hard to pay them, to pay these people. And then finding out that this was all for naught, that they were putting me in arrears, even though I wasn't. Right? First, they started calling me and telling me that I was in arrears, and I wasn't. But then I realized after that if you're a day late, you go instantly into default. The insurance pays off the bank, and the bank is completely out of the picture then.
Exactly, yeah. This has basically been written off and discharged as debt at that point.
Yeah. So the banks are out of it, but the fantasy mortgage companies tell people that they're collecting this money from you for the bank, don't they?
Yes, that's exactly what they do.
That's exactly what they do. So that's your first proof of the fraud. Okay? The mortgage companies, mortgage brokers, are owned by the lawyers from the bank.
Right, yeah. Yes, I know that. And
right?
I'm laughing ironically right now.
Yeah. You know? And these guys are taking you into court and supposedly fighting your foreclosure.
Right.
Helping you stop the foreclosure on their house.
Yeah.
Yes, they are helping themselves to your whole life, and with not a care in the world. Because I've this cruelty, this greed, this selfishness, this hate that these people project upon you, I would have never in my life ever imagined that anybody could do this. And so that, you know, when people are skeptical and they argue with you and they think that you're crazy, yes, because it's not a pretty picture. And telling people this story fills their minds with fear immediately.
Yeah.
And of course it does. Because you know what the first thought is. Oh my God, I've got children here.
I'm going to lose everything. I will be...
Yeah. You know?
I'm going to be sued and arrested and homeless and poor. And the mind just takes over at that point.
But not so. It doesn't have to be that way. We have recourse now. Okay? And that's what people need to realize. There's several ways you can go about being repaid the damages that have been done to you. You know about Drake Bailey's, he's been announcing now about the financial reset.
Yeah, I interviewed Drake in 2012.
Yeah. Well, just last week he's saying again that there's a green light and a red light and whatever. Yeah. But in the meantime, okay, as long as we have to live in this system, then we have to start doing things. We have to start being smart and stop being afraid. Would you agree?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And let me say this before we move away from it too far. I've kept track of what Drake's been doing over the years. I don't completely disagree with what he's talking about. But I do know that until the people stand up and begin to assert themselves into the process of their own liberation, that no military actions can take place. The military here in the United States, there is, in my understanding, a fairly good percentage that would like to see us taken back to our original organic forms of government, but that they don't sense that the people right now are in a position to back them up. Largely because of what we're talking about tonight. And why this conversation is so important, Jane, is because you are not an attorney, you're not a legal expert, you're not somebody that's out there doing fancy paperwork in courts. You're simply somebody that asserted yourself and began to understand who you are and began to take your power back. And all of that is much more important than what the military may or may not do on behalf of the people, in my opinion. Yeah.
And taking your power back is is an exercise in calming down, becoming realistic, and becoming practical about this, so that you don't end up allowing this to destroy you and your whole family. And when I look at it now, when I came back to Ontario, knowing about the fraud, and after I had sent them the notices to cease and desist because they did not prove to me that I owed them any money, I should have went to court then. You see what I'm saying? I should have taken these people and made them accountable right there and then, instead of trying to be decent, which is how they get away with so much that they do, because they take full advantage of good people. I can't express to you how hard I tried to do this in a non-harmful way, not harming them or myself or my family. But they aren't having it. Okay? They will use that against you. So the best thing to do, anybody that's listening to this conversation tonight, if you have a mortgage on your home, you need to print out the proof of funding letter and take it to your bank and start making these people accountable. I mean, it's a pretty simple thing. There's, if they'd shown me that I owe them this money, that I actually needed to, had to pay them this money, they did loan me money, I would have paid it to them with a heart and a half. And there wouldn't even be a fight. And I'm sure this is the truth for virtually most people on this planet. Because most people take pride in being able to be independent and take care of themselves and provide for their families.
Yeah, the fact that they cannot provide proof of any actual payment. And my understanding is that banks aren't actually allowed to loan money anyway. This is like one of the really big lies.
Yeah, and and that's another thing. Okay, so they've stolen our means of livelihood and creation from each one of us. They have told us that the banks are loaning us money when the law is that they are not allowed to loan money. They're just vehicles to distribute the money so that it gets from hand to hand. They don't need to be charging you fees or any of this crap. But see, if things had been done the right way and everybody had their own money to do the things, it's not that anybody's going to have $10 billion to, to do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if we are given, let's say we are given back all that has been stolen from us, and each of us are given these trust accounts to use as we see appropriate. Anybody that uses this money for greed will lose what they've been given. Because we are to take this money when we have access to it, and we are to create and restore.
Yes, I could not agree with you more about that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
I think what we're coming down to talking about now we're being ruled with an iron rod of law right now, and I can't help but think, in a lot of ways, yes, the people have been victimized by these cruel rulers. I mean, the Crown of England, the 10 Mile Square, Washington, D.C., all of it is completely out of control and unlawful according to the understanding of what we would call moral law. But I also think what's happened is that we've been deluded for so long that as people, we've lost our moral center as a result of the pollution that's occurred in the system. In a righteous system, we wouldn't have the greed that we have. We wouldn't have this need for ruling over others or being greater. We would go out and we would do just what you talked about. We would go out and we would create, and each according to their ability would receive according to what they were able to contribute, and we would take care of each other. This actually goes into the whole spiritual principle of divine love.
Yeah, but yes, but the dictates are coming from your own spirit.
Yes.
Not somebody else's.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What you're going to do with your life. If someone wants to lay on the couch for the rest of their life, that is their prerogative. And nobody else's business.
It's exactly right. Yes. I agree with that. And they would have the rewards of their efforts.
Yes, because God didn't put us here to force us to create. And who can create anything that's being forced anyway? Just the word in itself.
Yeah.
Just stops that from happening, right?
Well, and I do think that a lot of people who listen to this type of information, they want to know exactly what they can do, what papers they can file, what tricks they can use. I mean, we've had these different movements. We had the Montana Freeman movement in the 1990s here in the United States. We've had the Redemption movement. We've seen a lot of people get slammed and wind up going to jail, including some of the people from the OPPT's original movement. I know some of them also wound up being jailed as a result of attempting to access funds through the trust. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, the first thing that each of us has to do, okay, is that we have to get back to the basics. We have to unlearn. And that is each and every one of us has to change our minds. About we need to question everything we believe before we take action to do anything. You have to get to the real truth, your own real truth. To do otherwise, yes, you put yourself, because unless you have your peace of mind, unless you have the conviction in your heart that this is true and this is the right thing, and you know it, and it's God-given, and your back is, God has your back in it, then you can't take an action because you're in fear now. And fear is their ace in the hole. And they have radar for it. You can't pretend you're not afraid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, because that's true. They operate basically on sensing and then feeding into that fear loop.
Yeah. Because there's only two powers in the world, okay? A higher power, lower power, positive power, negative power, cause and effect. These are all energy, right? And whatever you go at, the results are determined by the energy you go at it with. And if you go at something in a fearful state of mind, how do you know when you're fearful? If you are in doubt, if you're worried, if you feel anxious, if you are angry in any way, shape, or form, you must be still. You do not even go outside your door until this is gone. What's it replaced with? Okay, once you realize the truth, you'll be able to see all of the little tricks and the ways that the things that they do and say and how things are written and whatever. You start to be able to see how the wrong is happening. Okay? Your part in it and theirs. And when we get some clarity, about what we're dealing with and how we need to deal with it and so on and so forth, you'll be successful. The main thing that I've found for me is that I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ has been a friend of mine, a personal friend. Give up this crap about you have to sacrifice, and he wants you to worship him, and you got to, get on your knees and pray, and stop all that bullshit, okay? Because Jesus Christ you cannot get close to him if you do not see that he is like you. You will be too afraid.
I do think in the scriptures it says that perfect love casts out all fear. So you have the two polarities there somewhere in all of that.
Yeah, because we can't continue to look at this man like he's greater than us. He doesn't want us to do that.
Yes, I agree.
Any more than if you and I were in a relationship, I do not want you to put me above you or below you. I want to walk beside you. That is all. I have your back, you have my back. And this is the relationship that everybody needs to get with Jesus. And so if we can do that, then you have your power, because Jesus Christ never died on the cross. They didn't crucify Jesus. They didn't kill him. That's not even possible for that to even have happened. And they used that lie was told to us to put us where we are today. Because if they could kill Jesus Christ, then they're certainly going to kill you, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, there needs to be a revamping, researching in our own minds and hearts of what we're believing and what we think is true, and don't look to others. Don't look to others to know the truth. Look within yourself. Have conversations with Jesus. He will show you. And if you don't feel, because they stripped us of our dignity and our self-worth, and we don't feel worthy of even being able to talk to Jesus or God. I know 27 years ago, that's where I was. Yeah. So start it with somebody that you can talk to. Like my sister-in-law told me to talk to St. Jude. And I said, well, who's that? And she said, well, St. Jude was a condemned man that became a saint. I thought, oh, well, yeah, I can talk to him because he's like me, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how I felt was condemned,
Well, that's religion that does that. The religion places that whole guilt thing right into you.
Sure.
And the idea of original sin and that this Jesus had to be Randy, crucified, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I'm looking at myself here, and I'm kind of pissed off with myself right now too, because this has been going on for 6 weeks, eh? And I know it's because I'm putting limitations on my higher self, on my spirit. I'm putting limitations on who I really am. I know who I am. I know that nobody shits on me and gets away with it. Never did since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. Crucifixion or not, right? But that's what you'll go through. I mean, you'll go through where you're pissed off, and then you calm down, and you get a little bit of perspective, and it is like Kate Renee says, it's baby steps. Yeah,
this is, of course, for those who don't know, Kate of Gaia, this is a website, and I think it's a blog talk radio show as well. And Creative Gaia basically talks about the name and use of the name, and when we post this show out, we'll put links up to all of this material as well.
Yeah, this is really the only thing that you have to change, but not everybody is going to be able to just stop using the name. I mean, people with children, with families and homes and everything, are not going to go and live on the street like they've done to me, or like I've allowed them to do to me, I should say. But I could do it because it's just me. I only have me to look after. Mm-hmm. My children are growing up, and I'm way past that in my life. So I could put myself out there, and they can do whatever they damn well want to me. But most people, that's not true, right? In the meantime, you do have a few remedies. It's very important that everybody write down the name of this video. And it's called Everybody Who Has a Mortgage or Loan Needs to Hear This. This man explains this whole process of what's going on with these fantasy mortgages and loans, and exactly what you can do about it to keep your home and also get, some money back for yourself in damages that they've done to you. You actually can become a member of his site. He's providing this information to people worldwide. And I think it's $99 to become a member. And so everybody can just go in and look at that, because that's a really good thing that this man is doing right now to save people's homes and basically their lives, right?
Yeah, is this benlowry.com? Is that the name of the website?
I thought it was Ben Henley.
Okay, I have benlowry.com/debt, because I'm looking at the YouTube video right now.
No, the video actually says everybody who has a mortgage or loan needs to hear this.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what this video is called.
Okay.
Okay, so this is it, and I'll look through it, and like I said, I'll put links up to that. I will put links up to the documents that we talked about, and so there will be resources available for people to be able to access some of this. So this is a tool that we can use. Can you talk about that a little bit, what people can do if they can't stop using the name?
Well, Ben explains in that video about how these fantasy mortgage companies are in violation of every aspect of the Fair
Credit Reporting Act.
Credit and Fair Practices and Collections Act.
Okay, in the United States it's called the Fair Credit and Reporting Act, but it's different in Canada.
Yeah, somewhere I think here in Canada it's Consumer Protection.
Okay, yeah.
Right? But he provides all the paperwork that you need to send to them to negotiate with them and resolve this problem between you and them. With no harm, because as he explains it to these people, because everybody is just doing what they know. There really are no criminals as such. When you understand that the whole world has been hoodwinked here by these little group of thieves, right?
Yeah, the deceivers are basically deceived themselves.
But they just think they're making a living like everybody else,
And a damn good one, too.
Yeah, in their minds, it's a rationalization, no doubt, but they're just doing business. And according to Ben, they're good at they. I'll tell you one thing. Ben says that they do not want to go into court, because if you get them into court, they have to produce the evidence of these loans, of these mortgages, and they have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They have no contracts. They have nothing with your name on it, because the name is not yours to start with. They have no proof that they ever paid anybody any money for your property or loaned you any money. They have absolutely nothing to prove, that there's any validity to what they're doing. So that's huge. That's a huge crime against you. Probably the biggest deception you could ever commit towards another human being, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it actually is. It is.
Yeah. Well, second to stealing our children, and that's another thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is rampant.
We're talking about the mortgages, the houses, and things like this. The main reason why every man, woman, and child needs to get rid, stop using, stop answering to, stop signing with the name on the birth certificate is because of our children. Because they own your children if you keep that name on your children. That means they can do whatever they want to your children and to you. And they're having a heyday via children's aid, adoption, and foster care. They are kidnapping your children every time they ask the name. Every time they ask your child that name, they are kidnapping your child. Their intent is to steal your child, and if not the physical child, your child's energy. They're attempting to kill your child.
Well, I get the sense they're attempting to kill us all. If not actually physically, then murder the spirit in some way.
Yes. Yes, kill us all. But, okay, we're adults now. And Ben talks about that too, We're adults on a playground here. And it's not serve and protect anymore. It's serve and collect. And that's the playground we're on. So, we have to make sound business decisions. But when it comes to our children, it's very, very important that you yank them out of this system ASAP. For me, every piece of paper in this world with that name on it that is mine will be burned. From here on for me today. What you're doing is you're putting yourself back under the care of the real authority in your life. There are no laws but God's. And as long as we follow and adhere to His laws, none of these people can touch us. And that's the main thing that each of us has to learn. Where you've been running from God and thinking that God is not there for you, and why is God letting this happen? And you know what I'm saying? We blame. God gets, he's the blame can, right?
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I'm anticipating responses. Because people were going to say, first off, well, you're just talking about this airy-fairy stuff about God, but this doesn't solve my practical problems. How do I pay a mortgage I don't have money for? How do I pay my bills? How do I operate? And I understand this position, Bonnie, very much, that there's a lot of fear impacted in this. I have a house, I have children. I'm fortunate enough not to have a mortgage at this point. But there's a lot of fear with that because basically what you've been telling us and what I've confirmed in my own research is this horrible fraud that took place that basically renders us, well, I'll use the term, and you can address this, we're aliens in our own land right now. In other words, we have been aliened.
Yes. Yeah. I'm in a position now where I have no identification. I don't have a job. I don't have money coming from anywhere. I was terminated from social services. They deactivated my health card. So now I don't know what's next. Other than this, okay? Now I'm going to do with my life what I want to do. I have talents that people will pay me for. Don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is, how are you going to be paid in a system which demands that you have a name and a number in order to be paid?
Well, when you become independent, you're not part of that system. You offer your service to people. They either buy it from you or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's got nothing to do with other people if you're not paying taxes or anything like that. Do you think anybody cares?
No,
if I'm not charging you taxes, then I think most people will be happy about that.
Well, here's the thing. The government has turned us all into snitches to transact business anymore. I mean, I've had people say, I need your soch. They call it the soch here in the United States. It's so cute. It makes it so nice and fuzzy. What's your soch? And I'm like, what is that exactly? Oh, your Social Security. Oh, you want that? Why? And, my response to that now has been, what is the lawful reason you have to ask for such information? Because they technically don't have that. But what they're doing is, though, I'm going to pay you for this, but I'll have to issue a 1099 at the end of the year so that the government knows that I paid you for this, so that because we're now a society where we all report back to the government God in order to earn our livings, which is why I ask you that question somewhat facetiously, but like I said, I'm anticipating questions that people will ask along the way about this. So,
yeah, well, people who do this will do without your services. Because you're not going to, if you haven't charged them taxes for your services,
mm-hmm.
why would you give them a receipt for it?
That's true.
Right.
But over the last 100 years, we've been conditioned into all of this because that's what's happened over the last 100 years. I mean, I don't know what the mechanism was in Canada.
It's only because people don't know the truth, eh? People don't. We've never had to pay taxes.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Right? There's never been a law.
Yeah, it's such a joke. The IRS even says on their own publications that compliance with tax law is voluntary, and we will be around to visit you and volunteer the hell out of you if you don't comply. That's basically what they're saying.
Yes. Yes, because what they do is if you don't pay it, they're calling you, bugging the life out of you, tormenting you until you pay them.
Tell me about it.
Threatening you and so on and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
So,
steal your bank accounts, go to your employer, run all kinds of background credit checks, try to get you to sign papers and forms, send you fraudulent letters. I've got a stack of letters here from the IRS that it's probably a foot high, of fraudulent letters that the IRS generates, which is just junk mail.
Yeah, but the beauty of it too, Randy, is that we can turn it around on them now too, eh?
Yeah.
Because they're
what I want to talk
fraudulently
about. Yes.
collecting money from you. So now you can sue them back. If Revenue Canada or taxation, U.S. taxation, whatever it's called there, IRS, I think it is.
It's the IRS, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they call themselves, too. They don't even use Internal Revenue Service anymore, so I suspect they have a service mark on the name IRS. They're just now betraying the fact that they really are just a credit collection agency domiciled in Puerto Rico, by the way.
Now, you'll find out a lot of the, what your recourse is. You really will, if you sit down and listen to that video that I told you about, because Ben goes through it step by step, Mm-hmm. So, and he uses the mortgages to give you an example, but it applies to every form of theft upon you. Right? Because it's all theft of honest services and obstruction of justice. Every bit of it. So when people are doing these things and you address it appropriately, people usually stop. Nobody likes to go to jail. Not even them. Well, that's another thing I wanted to share with people, about being in their jail down there, eh?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
That was probably one of the most peaceful experiences I ever had in my life. I was wondering, what the heck was I so afraid of? It was unbelievable. And those people stood at least about 10 feet away from me.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get grounded and you pull in your spirit, that's just one experience that you will have of how they can't touch you. Because in the Bible it talks about, Satan couldn't stay in the presence of Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we have the same power. When we're in a loving state and we're being honorable and so on and so forth, no evil can touch you. It's only when you allow yourself to have fear and doubt and questioning yourself and asking them permission. When you speak to these people, you do not ask them for permission. You use the power God gave you. So you command these people on what you want them to do or what you expect them to do. You don't write them in, a nice, sweet little letter.
Right.
Which is another reason why people are failing, going into their courts, and they're arguing, and there's this case and that case, and trying to prove that, and no, the burden of proof of everything now is on them, and all you got to do is expose the wrong, and from there it's up to them what they do. As soon as you expose the wrong to a person that they're doing, it takes away their power because it's self-judgment. Because they're placing a judgment on themselves. And that's why when you and I talked earlier, I was talking about in our local communities, we need to go, because we seem to now have a mixture of public servants. Some are working for the people, and others are working under the guise that they're working for the people. So we got them all mixed together. So what we need to do is go in to each of these offices and sort them out.
Yeah, let's talk about this. This is important.
Like weeding the garden.
Yeah.
Right? And the minute that you ask anyone if any public servant, I don't care if it's a social worker, if they're a secretary, whatever they are in that agency, if you ask them, are you working under your oath, and they say no, or what's that, or what do you mean, then you tell them what you mean, and you also tell them, okay, you have a choice. You either get under your oath, starting right now, or you get out of that chair and you get out of this building. That's it. And they have to do what you told them. They cannot resist you. They will not resist you. It is the same scenario as you read about in the Bible when Jesus drove out the demons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because all it is correction of thought. A miracle is correction of thought. And when you expose a lie or someone doing something wrong, right there, they lose their power. They have to stop doing it. Now, for me, that doesn't explain these people. The first time they came to arrest me, I was able to send them away. The last time they came, they attacked me. They overcame me. So how did that happen? Well, they caught me off guard because I was in bed sleeping, and they walked into my house.
Oh, my.
First of all, 8 o'clock in the morning, and one of the workers, they came, there were 6 guys from the Home Alone property management showed up at my home with a big truck and 6 guys. And the one guy entered my house because he had the key, because I didn't have the money to change the locks when I would go back in the house.
Right.
I, tried to keep them out as best I could, but I didn't have the money to take the locks off. So I just didn't bother locking the doors anymore. But he had the key anyways, and he walked into the house, and I jumped out of the bed and ran out, and I said to him, "You get out of my house now." And he looked at me and he goes, "You want me to leave?" And I said, "Yes, you are to leave immediately." So he spun around and went back out the door. And then that's when they called these 2-man impersonating peace officers. So the right thing that should have happened there, okay, if you have a police officer coming to your house, they are there to keep the peace. They're not there to aid and abet the theft of your home or any of your property. They're not there to make judgments upon you. They're only there to keep the peace. And when I told those people to leave, those police officers were supposed to escort them away from my property, not force their way into my home. No one is allowed to force their way onto your property. And that's another thing, the bailiff laws.
Yeah, let's talk about that. This is important stuff.
Yeah, the bailiff laws, they are not allowed to force their way into your property. As soon as you request them to leave your property, they are to leave as fast as their legs can carry them. If they don't, all validation of levy upon you is rendered null and void immediately. That they don't heed your command to get off your property. You see, bailiffs have no authority. They're nobody. They're just hired thugs.
Explain what that is. That sounds like a credit collector here in the United States. That's not like a court officer, is it?
A court officer, yeah, a bailiff.
Okay.
They're just there as a threat to you.
So
wherever they are.
What is the presumption? Was there paperwork which these alleged peace officers would have had in their possession that would have given them reason to believe that they were supposed to help enforce an action against you on your own property?
No. Our public servants, our police officers, are following orders. And there's a lot of confusion now between our public servants in the serve and protect area, because most of them are so confused now. They don't know when they're sent out into the community. They don't know if they're supposed to aid and abet the theft or the crimes, or if they're supposed to be serving and protecting. This is what one police officer, female police officer, apparently had told Sheila, who is a lady that's also going through problems, her and her husband, with their home and so on and so forth. Yeah, she was a friend of Sheila's, and she told Sheila, it's like Sheila asked her, why are you doing this? And she said, to tell you the truth, we don't really know what we're supposed to be doing anymore. Because you see, that all of our public servants, or what we believe are our public servants, in their hearts, they are our public servants, but they're being forced not to be. The threat over their head is they will have no job if they don't do what they're told. I talked to a secretary a couple of months ago about this. I reported a crime against me through London Hydro, and where they had cut off my electricity. And I asked her, I said, do you know that when you become a public servant, when you're hired by the government, that you are sworn to secrecy? And she said, oh, yes, absolutely. We keep, every bit of your information completely confidential. We won't tell anybody anything. So I said to her, I said, do you realize that I just reported a crime to you, and you just told me that you're going to keep it a secret? And she said, oh, my God. She never even thought about it, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You see?
Yeah.
Because they're just going through, like the rest of us, they're just going through, drifting through their daily lives in a state of fear. Everybody's doing. Most have not a clue that they're even in the world, let alone that there's anything going on. Because that's what fear does to people. It's like someone puts a blanket over your head, and you can't see the forest for the trees, nor can you feel anything. And you can't think straight. You're in a constant state of chaos.
Yeah.
And this is what's going on with our public servants. And this is why, too, as we try to correct these problems, we must be kind to each other. We can't judge each other and attack each other. Because whether you were attacked first or you're attacking back, it's still attack, and it won't work. So when we go to deal with these people, we have to look at them like ourselves, It's like Vandermeer is probably the only man on this earth that physically hurt me like he did in my life.
Is this a police officer?
This is Constable Vandermeer, okay. The one that jumped on me. And, I felt such compassion for him. He's a young man, and you have to be a village idiot if you don't see that this guy is not doing this of his own volition. Who in, a young, vibrant man like this, with everything going for him, why would he want to do this? And I said to him, Vandermeer, this is going to happen to your family now. You just set the stage for your own demise here. You can't do this to people and think that you're going to get away with it. You may think that you're helping them, they're hurting me. But
so this constable physically assaulted you in the course of action that took place on your property.
yeah, he jumped. He put his knee. I mean, he's a big guy. I'm only like 110 pounds, 4'11".
Mm-hmm.
And he knocked me down, and he put his knee in the center of my back.
Oh my!
And in all safety training, where you have to do restraining or anything like that, you're not allowed to put pressure anywhere on anybody's chest because you can kill them.
Yes.
You know. And I was just amazed, like. It really felt like I wasn't even there to him, you know? Like I wasn't a person to him. He was so violent with me. And there was absolutely no need for it. I didn't resist him. I never even had a chance. When he got in that door, he chased me up those stairs and he knocked me down and he just pounced on top of me, driving his knee in between my shoulder blades. And they cut me. I had blood going everywhere. And,
oh my!
And bruises, really bad bruises on my legs and on my arms, and so on and so forth. You know.
We're seeing more and more of this now, and it's almost every day now. I'm seeing reports of people, and here in the United States, we're seeing people that are just being shot. I mean, now police officers. We just had a young. Military, young 20-year-old military young man who was shot by a highway patrolman at a roadside after he got out of his car after having a traffic accident. And he was yelled at by the police officer. He turned around. He had his wallet in his hand, and the police officer shot him in the abdomen. The guy will be on... He's going to be on a colostomy bag for the rest of his life because the bullets just ripped through his intestines.
Oh,
and we see this every day now, the reports, and I can't help but think...
Yeah, and I guess, Randy, that's why Drake is telling the people now to arm themselves.
Yeah, and that's not the way we want to see this go.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll have to use it.
No, but it is. Look,
but it is a good stopper because if I had had a gun that day, he wouldn't even come through that door. All I would have had to do was point at him, and he would have been out of there so fast to make your head spin. Because you got to remember that these people, they're doing this crap, okay, under threat and whatever, but they're not, like, this is a cowardly thing that they're doing. They're not laying their life down for these people.
No, they're not. No, it's right? The opposite. They're
not going to take a bullet for these people. And, a few of them may have to get shot for them to glue in. People have had enough. When you're told to get off of somebody's property, you had better move.
Yeah, I'm noticing that even encounters with policemen as a result of, so-called alleged would-be, quote, moving violations are now preceded by, these cars are all equipped with enough lights to blind you. And basically, the demeanor of police officers now is they seem hyped up. They seem overly energized. There's an element of fear. There's an element of over-aggression towards people that they're coming at. And in many cases now, they're just brutally aggressive in whatever they do. Their demeanor, their language, the way they conduct themselves.
Can you imagine, okay, what these miserable, greedy old men are doing to our youth?
Well, I know what they're doing. They're traumatized. They're traumatized.
Well, yes. Because they're not, when they're going and threatening, like they did up and down the street, they're threatening my neighbors and then calling and threatening my my sons and whatever, they're doing the same thing that's being done to them. The people have to wake up here. We need to protect our public servants. Years ago, I had called the electricity company here because I was my name was forged onto a fraud contract.
Mm-hmm.
And
in other words, they were charging you for power.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they tried to charge me more than I would normally have to pay on this contract, and my name was forged on it. So when I wouldn't pay it, they cut off my hydro, and this was in the dead of winter. So I called the electricity company, London Hydro, and I was speaking to a lady there, and I was saying to her, like, you guys need to turn my hydro back on, because I did not sign this contract with this company. I didn't have a need for cheaper hydro because I wasn't paying very much in hydro to begin with. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, this was 15 years ago, and she told me, she said, Miss Parker, I would love to be able to help you, and we used to be able to, but I have to tell you that they have, these companies have come in here, they've taken over the hydro, and we're not allowed to help anybody, and we have to do what we are told, and that's it.
Now, most people in the United States may be a little baffled at this point, but in Canada, most of your electric is a result of the publicly built hydro projects. I've seen Quebec Hydro, for instance, Montreal. Each region or province seems to have their own electric supplier, but this is an infrastructure that was basically built and put together and financed through the public. And then it was designed to provide utilities for the quote so-called public. And sometimes these terms just go all kinds of sideways when you understand definitions. But in effect, these companies have now been turned over to private corporations, privatized. And then on top of it, they're now taxing you for the privilege of paying for the very thing that you originally paid for in the beginning to build through your public trusts.
Yeah, but it's been taken over by private companies, which means that a group of men with a bit of money went into your hydro company in your community and are buying where your hydro company originally was on the national grid. Everybody bought their hydro from the national grid.
Right.
And it was regulated.
Yes. It was.
By our government. They removed all of the regulations so that these groups of guys could come in. Now they buy the hydro at the price that you used to pay for it, and they sell it to you at the price they want. You see?
Yes, it's a wholesale operation. Yeah.
So it's just theft. They got no more lawful authority than you or I to do this. I never contracted with them. I never gave them permission.
You don't even have a choice.
Exactly. But I do have a choice. Because I never contract with them. I never voted to do this. I don't care if you did or not. I didn't. So I will not contract with them. And that's why when they cut off my hydro, for the last 4 or 5 months there in the house, I refused to pay, and they cut the hydro off and tried to force me to sign a contract that I would pay them, whatever amount it was. And I said no. Instead, I sent the hydro company the warning, notice and warning to all utility companies. And that letter also explains to those people that they owe you money. also. Because all these little invoices that we're getting with the all caps name on it is a record of the dividends that they're supposed to be paying to the people.
Right, exactly.
Meaning that they're supposed to be paying to the Treasury. And these invoices are letting you know what they paid back to the Treasury.
So this is a statement of account. It's not even a lawful bill or an invoice.
No, it's a record of dividends that the profit that they have made.
Now, how did you find that out? How do you know that?
Because someone in the United States, I have a little angel, I call him. I don't really know who he is, but he keeps sending me all of this information.
Uh-huh.
And it's great. Because, I mean, you have to be completely stupid not to realize that what he's sending you is the truth. I mean, it all makes sense when you think about it from the perspective that we each have our own accounts. They've been hijacked and stolen by these little groups of people we call government and corporations and banks. And not only, and they had to create all these fantasy liens against the people because they cannot access the treasury of your country otherwise.
No.
To fill their own pockets. So, you know, some people say, oh, it's the elites of the world running this. No, this is in our whole society. Our whole society is doing this. In every aspect of our lives. There's no elite somewhere, in some country sitting on a pedestal collecting your money. That's not what's going on here. And so the people need to get practical about this too. It's your neighbor that's stealing from you. You know, the guy down the street with working in the utility company. The guy working as a teller in your bank. The social worker who's supposed to provide sustenance to you and your children.
And instead takes your children.
Yes.
Which is happening here in the United States
right
now.
The whole system is based on theft. I mean,
yes.
It's described to us that it's based on debt. But it's not based on debt. There is no debt, only thieves. So it's based on theft. The whole system.
My rabbit hole began about 10 years ago when I started looking at the so-called national debt. And I went, wait a minute, what is this debt and who owes it and how did I become a party to it? And when you go down that rabbit hole, when you begin to look at the system and you see what they've done in terms of what is basically illegal conversion, theft of identity, ongoing fraud, I understand people out there and the level of what I call cognitive dissonance that they go through, because it's actually, as you described yourself earlier in this conversation, it's a very powerful moment. You are momentarily very disoriented because everything that you thought you knew about your world and reality has suddenly shifted underneath you. And yet, at the same time, the more you look, the more you see, and the more you see, the more you know, and you eventually wind up at the place where you are today, which I think is a very brave place. I think it's a very cool thing that you're doing, given that you've decided to lay this down and not let them continue this.
Because I'm so happy. It's not about not letting them continue doing it. If I don't have to do it anymore, it's got nothing to do with them. It's like someone lifted a big weight off of my shoulders, and now I can live my life the way I want and always intended, but was, oppressed, stopped from doing. I have so much to give to life. Randy?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, my phone went off. I was just dealing with that. So, yes.
Oh, it's your phone? I was wondering who was whistling.
No, that was my phone. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
We'll cut this out of the interview. So I'm sorry, you addressed me.
Yeah, I'm just saying that you would not believe how happy you are when you realize that you don't have to do
I've
anything.
imagined this, and I got to tell you something, Bonnie. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because I get a sense when I imagine your situation, and even when I look at my own and consider for a moment, what do I have to lose? That I don't have anything except we come into this world without anything, and we're not taking any of this stuff with us. And in the process, I guess it's a question of what we bartered our souls for.
Yeah, and there's your freedom, okay? Do you think this is the first time in my life I've lost a home? Or left a home? It's not the first time. I've furnished and unfurnished more houses than Kellogg's got cornflakes. You know? Like, who cares? And then this house, it's gone, but everything, I mean, literally everything that, I thought was mine is gone. They can have it because there's tons of it out there. Like, I'll collect it all again. Do you ever notice how fast you collect all this shit back into your life?
Yes, exactly. I do.
Right?
Yeah. I live in a house full of stuff that I wish I didn't have anymore, but I liked it when I bought it.
Except now, I'll probably go get a furnished apartment. I don't think, I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to be, and this is when they were trying to force me to take the contents out of my house. I could have went there and taken it, but I didn't have any place to take it. I didn't have any money to pay for a place to take it. So, that ended up being a plus for me because otherwise I might have, and it wouldn't have gotten as far as this. Like, I've been able to learn a lot and expose so much by having to go through this process.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people, it won't have to be so rough, Because all we're doing when we're willing to throw it all down and say that's it. But to me, these people must be so desperate. They obviously need all this junk more than I do. That's how you have to look at it. Because being hurt about it and being angry and crying and fighting them and shooting them, killing them, it's not going to resolve it.
Well, first off, and this is something that I've tried to communicate in the shows that I've been doing, and I've been on radio continuously for the last 12 years, is to remind myself and others that we're more than this physical being. I mean, there's something beyond us that's greater. We're not the sum of everything we've acquired and bought and have, but there's a spiritual side to all of this, which is, again, why I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah. And the spiritual side of it, because they've given God such a bad name and everything, eh? And that's the only heartbreaking thing about this, because He's always had our back, eh? And none of us have known it. None of us.
Yeah.
Not one of us knows what this power is all about. And this power he wants you to be happy. He did not create you to be miserable. And he wants you to know that's all. If you ask him, that's what he's going to do for you. He's going to make you happy. That's it. And that's what he did for me. you know? Because I was kind of saying to him, what the hell are you doing letting these guys do this to me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you can get pissed off at him, too, you know. He's got big shoulders, eh?
I know that. We've been through that, down that road a few times.
Yeah, and, you know, and then he showed me, because once it was all gone, oh my God, I don't have to keep, well, if anybody is, you know, there's no wonder people think I'm a lunatic. I'm crazy, right? Because, I mean, they'd break in, and then I would break in, and they'd break in, and I'd break in, and I had all these tools in the trunk of my car, and I had, the second time I went into the house, I threw the horseshoe. How ironic, eh?
Yeah.
I found a horseshoe in the shed, and I went and I threw it through the window, and then I was going to board it up, but I never got a chance because they broke in again and they boarded it up. So then all I had was a drill, so I had to drill all these little holes into this piece of plywood until I could tear it apart with a pair of pliers. I didn't have no saw or anything like that. And my neighbors wouldn't give me any electricity to run the drill because they were scared that they would get arrested. And isn't that awful?
Arrested for, you know, I remember hearing this when you were interviewed by Sam on her show. Arrested for what? Aiding and abetting, helping your fellow man? Is that what aiding and abetting is now? It's helping your fellow man?
Yeah. Because everything about these people now is the opposite of sanity. Right? So, do you know what a miracle is, Randy? It's correction of thought.
That's awesome.
That's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. As soon as you correct your thoughts, the way you're thinking about things, it determines whether you're going to be happy or miserable. That's it. It's not rocket science. You don't have to spend, months and months meditating and
prostrate before the altar and beating your chest and sobbing to God, why me? Yeah.
Because as soon as you correct your thinking about things, like it was absolutely amazing to me, the peace that I felt, knowing that it was all gone. Okay? And I didn't have to do that anymore. Like, when I climbed through that window, and I was all scratched up from tearing that board apart because I didn't have long sleeves on, and I had cuts all over my hands and everything, you know. And I was so tired, and it was so hot while I'm doing this, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, what am I doing? Never mind the neighbors, you know. But the reason that I did this, okay, is not just for me. I have sons, I have family, I have grandchildren, I have friends, I have loved ones, I have a neighborhood of people that I care about very much. And that's why I did this. This is, this is all I got to give you, the best I can give back to life. And
but you're basically,
I think it's the most wonderful thing.
I do too. And in a lot of ways, you're like a liberator, because, and it's very difficult for people to see this, because I'm sure they look at you and they go, well, you've lost everything. You're homeless. You don't have any money. You don't have a job. Your power's been cut off, and the police have beaten you and hauled you away. Well, in about 5 minutes, you actually do start to look like Christ, don't you?
Sounds like a real bad movie.
But what I'm talking about is that I think we all have to deal with that scenario. Look, the world's getting very dark. The United States is spiraling right now into economic crisis, as is Canada, Europe, and most of the Western world right now. These bankers have driven this economic system to the wall, and there's no coming back from it. Your situation and your position, as you've described it to me tonight in the other interview with Sam, is the situation that we're all going to be faced with within the next year, in my estimation, because I don't think it's going to get better. I don't think they're going to fix the economy, and I think they're basically going to drive this thing right into the ground, and we have an opportunity at that point to be liberated from them or to be under the heels of their boots.
Yeah, so how do we liberate ourselves from it? Get rid of the drama. We're a bunch of drama queens and drama kings. You'd think it was the end of the world. The scenario that you just gave me there, you know?
That's a drama queen scenario, exactly.
But see what I see. Holy God, I don't have to fight with these people anymore. I don't have to pay them. I don't have to run from them. I don't have to be threatened by them. You see? And yeah, I don't have any furniture right now, but that'll be changed when I'm ready to do it. And then I'll find a few chairs and a bed and sleep in it and get some food, and who cares?
Yeah.
Right? But now I can enjoy my life. I can enjoy my family, my children, and everything, because I have been so trapped in this, Randy. Okay? And what's getting me out of it, what's getting me to the point where I'm free of this, is this: I can't do this anymore. I've had enough. I'm not meant to live like this. That's it. Right? And we will not give it up. We will not let it go. And it will not change until we get it to our heads that what we're doing here, this is all bullshit. This is all drama. You know, we're awfulizing everything.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it's all
like I said,
bullshit.
You say, well, it was sad, you know, what they do. No, this is not a time to be sad. This is a time to be happy, and this is what God is showing us with all of this crap that's going on in every corner of this world. Give up the drama. You don't have to grieve. You don't have to be hurt about everything. That is a condition of the mind. That's the mind control.
Yeah.
You know, if someone dies, you're supposed to be all broken-hearted. People even die of loneliness because someone passed on. Well, you know, that's not... What does that serve? So it's really learning what serves you. Whatever doesn't, figure out what's valuable to you and what's not valuable, and what's serving you. What is making you happy or making you miserable. Discard whatever it is that's making you unhappy and keep what isn't. And I got to tell you, that house over there, I'm poisoned with it. I'm poisoned with it. I don't think I ever will even want to see it again. Right? And not because there's anything wrong with the house. It's a beautiful, beautiful little home, you know. But I want no part of people like this ever again in my life. There will be nobody putting any nooses around this neck for the duration of my days here. You know, because this is supposed to be a joyful thing. When you buy a home and, you know, you take such pride in it. You're supposed to be able to be happy there. And what is it? I've never had a moment's peace since the day I bought that house, and now I understand why.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so that wraps up the interview. The information presented on this show is for information purposes only. As with everything, you need to examine the issues in your own particular situation and understand that there is no one singular path. There's no silver bullet. This show will be added to an archive page that is entitled Debt Termination, which includes other materials that I have presented on the subject of money, identity, and the commerce system. Links will be on the show page, at offplanetradio.com under Debt Termination, and I advise you to listen to it and understand the spiritual aspects of this, but additionally also to study the laws and to study the structure of the system and to study your own needs and your willingness to risk and sacrifice in order to be liberated from oppression and bondage. I'm Randy Maugans. This is Off Planet Radio. The truth is out there. It's inside you. Keep looking for it. We'll be back with another show very soon.